Welcome everyone to day 3 of the European Masters. My name is Maurits Camille, and I'm finally reunited with my good friend here, Dan Orcs Harrison.
Been a while.
It's been a long time.
Yeah, I mean, you've been commentating on a less relevant region, we'll say. In fact, I wanted to ask you, how you feeling about EU Masters this time around for the Benelux?
I think EU Masters as a whole is great for the Benelux. You know,
I haven't seen any of the Benelux teams. Where are they? Did they qualify?
To play-ins, yeah.
Oh.
But they didn't make it out. Now, Sector 1 was 1-win away, but Lowland Lions
They didn't make it?
No, they didn't. They did not make it.
That's
and Lowland Lions also didn't do too well. Yeah. So I'd rather go into what has gone well.
Okay,
which is EU Masters so far, because let's be honest, it's been a great show, and yesterday was no exception.
Yeah, I mean, we had some huge upsets and some huge plays, and this was the big one. Samsung Morningstars against LDLC, and just watch this combo coming up between Naita and Stenboss in particular. Just beautiful. A 5-man face breaker. That's a lot of missing teeth.
It's a very, very expensive dentist bill, and this coming from a team that no one expected to beat LDLC, and then Mouse versus Fnatic Rising, another banger of a match, and Mouse just looks unstoppable. They look so incredibly good this far. But there was a moment where Fnatic, it looked like a second, it was going to be close.
It looked like Pride was going to carry, and then it ends up with a leader quadra kill. It was close in this one moment, but considering we had a whole game and this was that one opportunity for Fnatic to be relevant, I think it shows how dominant Mouse were in this one. No.
It
just a beautiful play.
I mean, leader being amazing.
You know what, I'm just going to flat out say it. As much as obviously me casting the LC, I'm supporting them as a region, I just love good League of Legends. And so a bit more of that from Kick in this one. We saw, honestly, Lurx really heavily punished by Schlatter in this one. It was partially due to the draft. The Ezreal Yuumi didn't offer too much pressure, but in the end, it was Kick coming out convincingly. And we saw a bit of a Pookie pop-off as well.
But you say a little bit. I was genuinely impressed. Of course, Pookie, really popular player at the EU Masters. Let's take a look at the standings here. And there's a couple of trends that we've been slowly seeing pop up here.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing is that the major regions, their first seed, all of them are undefeated so far. You know, Misfits Premier, Mouse Sports, Monster Riders, Kick, Neosif, all of them going strong so far.
So far?
So far. Well, it's early days. That's the thing. I don't want to make too many sweeping statements for now. I
was trying to see if you were going to throw something spicy, Mara, but let's take a look for today's schedule. Some of the highlight matches. Of course, you gotta mention Gamers Origin versus Mouse Esports. That is DAC versus Prime, DAC versus LFL, always a really great matchup between the two of them. Then second, we have Movistar Riders, the Spanish Shavers, taking on Gamer Legion, and Spain would be very happy if they picked up a win here. And then Schalke 04 Evolution versus LDLC. Neither of these teams have a win yet, which is crazy considering the fact that LDLC is the spring champion.
Yeah, and you can obviously say it's early days, but it's not what we expected. We expected LDLC with very few changes to come out really strong into this. But in our first game, Intrepid Fox against Fnatic Rising. And I think to set the stage for this one, despite the loss against Mouse, who are looking super dominant, Fnatic Rising are still a strong contender for the tournament, and we're expecting to be favored in this matchup.
Now, Fnatic Rising also have a lot of pressure on them. They're the only remaining seed for the NLC now. I don't have any NLC favoritism, but obviously you'd like them to see them take the win here. And Intrepid Fox, I think we've already talked about this as well. The Greek region as a whole has been having a stellar performance, but for Intrepid Fox, this group, a lot of teams would struggle, and they are also currently struggling. Yeah. But not without good showings here and there.
It was an achievement for them to make it through play-ins. It'll be an achievement if they're able to challenge the teams in the group, because it is a pretty stacked group. Ultimately, yesterday we saw them get decimated to a degree by Gamers Origin, but they had moments. They had moments where the play was good. It was just the setup wasn't ideal, and they often didn't translate those, picks or engages into objectives. So I'm hoping for a little bit more here. We obviously have been rattling through some bans in this situation. Tarek targeted away from Bravado, but this leaves open the Caitlyn, so that's a pretty big pick to be leaving open for Fnatic Rising.
Yeah, Caitlyn, of course, has been an incredibly popular first pick, has been a common ban as well on red side, and is going to get picked up here initially for Fnatic Rising. Now, there's a couple of answers. Generally, you see stuff like the Jhin and the Ashe getting taken. Yeah. The Ezreal from Intrepid Fox would suggest a very different route, but it is in line with what you'd expect from Intrepid Fox, because they're a top-side heavy team. Yeah,
that's what we saw. We saw LeBron being the big carry for the team, trying to find these windows, and Punisher and Bako are really the ones you want to look to when you're looking for a game that's going to go favorably. And I really like if they go for this Hecarim here. I think it sets LeBron up to potentially snowball a game very effectively, but he needs a bit of assistance in that regard. So we'll have to see what this third pick comes out from them. It could be a support counter pick if Fnatic Rising take theirs early, or it could end up being a mid laner if they want to try and secure Punisher having some priority. One thing to note, we've seen the Cassiopeia banned away from him, but the Aurelia has actually been left open. You often see that as banned, both of those banned away from Punisher.
Yeah, Punisher, of course, a very well-known player within the Greek scene, and his Cassio, I think, has just been perma-banned, and like you said, a lot of teams also going for the Aurelia. Whether or not that's going to get picked up remains to be seen, as we see the Lux getting locked in here. And Caitlyn Lux is an incredibly strong lane. We've seen it time and time again. This is, of course, the Hot Fist Lux, so there's no triple shielding anymore, but if you add a Shen to that as well, xMatty's going to have a great game here.
Yeah, a little bit weaker having the Shen here because it's not a flex. Normally you can flex between top and support, but it's still a very strong pick in the top lane. The Caitlyn Lux is a really powerful lane, and I like the Lux because it's better than Morgana as a blind. And it's difficult for Intrepid to answer here because your options are, do you want to try and give Bako a good matchup in the top lane, or are you going to try and make this bot lane survivable? Because right now it is not. Ezreal into Caitlyn Lux is doomed. That is a doomed lane. I'm talking you're losing your tower at like 10 minutes.
It's not good.
And I think Karma is the only thing you can pull out as an answer. It has been nerfed a little bit on the patch, not as much power to push, but is going to be able to at least help the Ezreal hold his own. It's not going to be as doomed.
It's alleviating, right?
Yeah.
I think you're never expecting to win that lane as Intrepid Fox. So what you're saying with the Ezreal Karma, they can hold the shove, they can make sure that they don't drop too many plates, and make sure that xMatty doesn't start roaming around the map. Now, we already talked a little bit about Intrepid Fox. They're a top-heavy team. What do we want to see from Fnatic Rising? Because they did struggle yesterday in their game against Mouse.
Well, I think from the way the draft has gone so far, I think you can heavily lean towards bot lane. Because typically, I want to see the team playing around Dan, but I think Dan now has a lane he can lean towards. And often he does like leaning towards that bot lane. A lot of times when he has an opportunity to gank there, he will go for it. So I want to see a strong jungler for Dan that can potentially match up into the Hecarim. And a Roman mid laner for MagiFelix would be ideal. You've already seen them start to ban away the Galio. Potentially Twisted Fate could be something else they take away, because if they leave Shen Twisted Fate open, that it doesn't matter what you pick in the bot lane, it is doomed.
Yeah, that you know the dives are coming, and they're not going to be fun. Instead, it will be the Akali, so that means that there is still some additional global pressure up in the form of that Twisted Fate for MagiFelix. Now, what is the last ban going to be here from Fnatic? Because if I look at what we've seen from Intrepid Fox so far, they have put a really high priority in getting a good matchup for someone like Bako. So I wouldn't mind a top lane ban, or you go along and it will be decided, which is something that Punisher has favored as well.
Yeah, potentially it could even be flexed in the top lane, steal away the ult from the Shen, actually has some power and value, especially if they have the AP. But we'll have to see. I expect to see a mid lane pick here for Intrepid Fox, something that's blindable, fairly strong, and then you put the counter pick into the top lane. But we'll wait and see. Either way, I'm happy so far with Fnatic Rising's direction here. I think their composition yesterday was inventive, difficult to execute though, and I think we saw that come out. So this is a lot more straightforward. I think it's a lot more easier to pull off and to see if they can do so. It is just going to be the blind Orianna. No surprise if MagiFelix answers it with something like the Azir, a good secondary carry that can also contest priority well. And then it really comes down to what Dan wants to take in the jungle, what he wants to lean on in this matchup.
Because what you see from Fnatic Rising now is a throwback to a more stable team composition, right? You have a very strong front-to-back team fight, you have a really strong bot lane that you can play around with the Shen and potentially your jungler, and you always have the inevitability of a Caitlyn and an Azir. Whereas on the other hand, Intrepid Fox also like their composition. You know, the Hecarim and the Orianna go very well together, and I like that they save the last pick here, and it is a Rakan.
Locked in,
never mind, I thought I was going to elect it. I was like, wait, no, that doesn't work at all.
I mean,
yeah,
we have actually seen Shen jungle.
That will make a lot more sense.
Specifically from Zanzara, but I don't expect it. Volibear, really strong in terms of setting up ganks, setting up plays, a lot of early skirmishing power. Completely fits the T, and honestly, the fact it gets to this late is pretty nice overall for Fnatic Rising. This is a good matchup into the Shen, picking the Gangplank. There's not really much threat in terms of the taunts, but it's kind of lacking that carry potential I was hoping for on the side of Intrepid Fox. So I'm a lot more keen on the Camille in this situation. They're going to lock it in, so I'm happy with this.
me personally, I watch all the playing games, but that's really where you're gonna get.
That's our job.
Yeah, well, yes, but also I wanted to watch all the Benelux games.
Oh, could you see them with the tears in your eyes?
No, it was hard. It was hard, but I made do. And Bako was an exquisite Camille, playing against Sector 1's Phoenix, who, as we say, it's now Intrepid Fox here, not Sector 1. And all in all, let's take a look at the drop that we see here. Fnatic Rising, definitely a back to basics, very straightforward. You have a good front line, you have a lot of levers to pull, you have a really strong bot lane with a lot of prio, and xMatty has been a crucial factor in the performance for Fnatic. Whereas from Intrepid Fox, it's mitigation on the bot side, and then seeing if you can get that Hecarim or maybe the Camille ahead.
Yeah, I think very easy front to back for Fnatic Rising is what they love to play. It's what we typically saw from them in the NLC, so not too many surprises in that regard, and it gives them a lot of tools to play around with in the early game. On the other side, Intrepid Fox, it's a little bit more finesse coming out. They need to get this Camille and Hecarim to be strong, and then they have that split push element. If they do opt into the team fights, they kind of need to be diving the backline. They need the shockwave to follow up, because ultimately, if we do have a situation where it's just front to back, Fnatic Rising have better tanks, and they also have longer range carries. So, harder to pull off for Intrepid, but Fnatic, they're looking for that invade.
And we have barely gotten into the first game of the day here at day 3 of the European Masters, and Fnatic Rising already taking a gander into the enemy jungle, just dropping some wards and leaving it at that.
Yeah, and Intrepid Fox will answer back on the other side. So just a bit of information traded on both sides. Actually interested to see if Fnatic Rising go for invade here. I like a map split in this situation because ultimately Shen isn't the easiest to dive, but also just you can really get your bot lane so far ahead that you can go for an early swap towards the top lane.
And Hecarim is prone to getting invaded.
Yeah, absolutely.
Will get spotted out here now. See the Q thrown out by Kyouma, but there's not really any way to reliably contest this. I'm not sure if you can really do something here as Intrepid Fox, but they are holding their ground.
Yeah, Intrepid Fox need harass in this situation. They need to get some damage down on them with their long-range poke. You can see that LeBron's trying to actually clear that wolf camp, but it has been warded, so they're aware of this. They don't want LeBron to get level 2 before Dan does. That is the ideal situation.
And this is something we've seen a lot in the European Masters regarding that Hecarim. He has been invaded time and time again, and here they go in very deep on top of Kyouma, and he is going to get blown up with both summoners used. You see LeBron going in deep, Dan getting taken low, but running away. There goes Gagai. He finds the kill, but might have to pay with his own life, and it is looking like a triple kill to start off the game here. Bravado does go down, and it is a bloodbath in the beginning of this game, Orcs.
Yeah, a lot of confidence there from Fnatic Rising to go in. The instant flash done from Dan, the follow-ups there, and all in all, kills are traded relatively evenly. It's obviously an edge of Fnatic Rising, but to answer 2 back isn't so bad. My concern, though, is look what Maddie has just come back to lane with. Already has a pickaxe in hand.
It's a Caitlyn Lux lane.
It's
not good.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of goal, it's not a massive difference, but it's just the fact Maddie gets all the resources. And I love the confidence here from Dan. They are waiting for this. They know they have the CC to be layered, so as soon as he sees Kyouma stepping up, flash done, the root comes in just as the stun is ending. Nothing Kyouma can do in this situation.
Oh, the
flash is away but already dead, and then there's actually quite a bit of turnaround from Intrepid Fox here. Ezreal, Hecarim, pretty good level 1, especially with the Hecarim in the mix there. And Gagai does the best he can. He absolutely does as much as he can, and getting the kill back on a Bravado, pretty critical as well. But it's ultimately not enough. You take too much damage, Maddie gets that triple kill and is now really in a good spot. I mean, as far as Caitlyn in the early game, 3-0 before you've even touched a wave, I'll take it.
He's feeling good.
Yeah.
He's feeling happy, and that leads us to already a 500 gold lead this early in the game. But look at the top lane. Bako is trading favorably here against Pride, wondering whether or not he can get more than that. But Dan in the air, I'm pretty sure that he's not going to be able to. Let's get spotted on the board. That's going to be the end of that. And now that, you know, the rest has come. It's calmed down a little bit.
I will say one thing though, because both junglers died in that situation, LeBron didn't end up falling behind. You can actually see that he's doing okay in terms of farming department. If that had just been a straight up Fnatic take the blue buff and force LeBron away, that could have been specifically bad for his matchup. So yes, but it's a little bit rough, but ultimately they managed to keep LeBron in a decent spot in this game, which I think is pretty important. Because again, we're saying bot lane just essentially just need to play safe, and actually they've been holding up okay on the back of the priority that the Karma helps to achieve. They aren't doing so bad in this scenario.
And I think it also helps that Gagai picked up 2 kills there, which is going to make it a lot less hard to at least, you know, try and not lose too hard, which thus far they've been able to. I am getting worried as more and more levels are going to get into that Caitlyn, but for now, they're holding on quite well. And you mentioned LeBron already. He's also gone for Conqueror, not for the phase rush, which is something we often see on Hecarim as well. And he's actually able to make it, as I say, as he walks over and control Ward. And it's spotted, but I don't think there's any real punish potential here with the state of the lanes.
Pretty safe. And him being on the bot side of the map means that Gagai and Kyouma just can continue to shove. This Karma pick really helping a lot to be able to achieve priority in a lane where typically you wouldn't be able to see an Ezreal do so.
And then, like your opinion, we see from Intrepid Fox a lot of focus towards the late game. We see 2 calls being picked up. We see a lot of focus as well in the terms of like the early Ezreal pickup. It's mitigation. How well are they going to match the pressure that Fnatic's putting out? It says Bravado throws a binding, but doesn't actually hit anyone. Dan also in the general vicinity.
And just going to back off. He's given some cover towards his bot lane, but ultimately LeBron really isn't too interested in actually contesting this. He's happy to just farm up, and he started to pull ahead of Dan in terms of experience. We do see pretty heavy trade coming in from the mid lane. Basically, MagiFelix just putting some pressure down on the Punisher. But again, this has been a fairly slow early game after that initial bit of action.
It was very explosive, and then, you know,
bit calmer.
Take your time.
Yeah.
No rush.
I think the big point I'm looking towards is the level 6, specifically for LeBron and Pride. I think Hecarim getting the ultimate is a massive tool in terms of skirmishes. It's really important. And I think Pride as well, the Stand United, is a massive one for starting those skirmishes and having a numbers advantage.
What we do see here is that regardless of the slower pace after that initial skirmish, Fnatic is pulling ahead in terms of gold and is also taking the first early objective of the game here in that Mountain Drake. As Dan picks that up, will fall a little bit further behind in terms of CS, in terms of experience to LeBron, but with a Mountain Drake you're going to take it. Also a Cloud Dragon as the next one, so we are not looking at a Cloud Soul, which I'm sure Fnatic, with how the pace of the game currently is, will be more than happy with.
Well, it's 2 big souls. It's Ocean or Infernal, both of which are really powerful. Infernal, that extra damage comes in huge. But also the Ocean, I'm looking at these tankier members. I'm looking at the Sustain on the Hecarim, the Volibear and the Shen. The Ocean Soul really can be hard to deal with. So I think either of those could be game-changing. And the fact that it is going to be those means that Fnatic's early dragon has a fair bit of value. And obviously, you know, it eventually gets to the point where Maddie now, if we're looking, he's picked up a BF sword, he's into a tier Cull. That is a massive attack damage difference. This is where it's really going to hurt. Because a lot of people look at Caitlyn and think, okay, early in the lane, really powerful. But I actually feel like Caitlyn, the laning phase spikes when you back and get some AD behind you, because you really start to hit. Because initially the auto attacks kind of tickle a bit, but seen an engage.
There we see the Emperor's Divine Punisher getting taken low, use the defensive shockwave, and we'll be able to make it out there, despite the use of Exhaust there, and not enough damage from Fnatic Rising available here to take down Punisher.
But you'll absolutely take that. You just roam Bravado up, he only uses, doesn't use the flash, just uses that exhaust, and you end up actually burning the flash from Punisher for very little in return. MagiFelix still has plenty of mana and health. There's still a lot of, nothing really lost in terms of that play.
And something that's interesting is Dan has been making moves around the map, he's been putting pressure, and he still isn't that far behind LeBron. Even though they picked up the Drake, even though LeBron has been prioritizing that farming, Dan is still able to keep up relatively well. He's currently pulling ahead.
Yeah, but it is the whole point that we talked about. You want to punish the Hecarim in the early game. We saw them looking invade. So yes, Dan hasn't fallen behind, but LeBron hasn't either. And the Hecarim will be really strong when he hits that level 6 point. That's a great point to start these skirmishes and have a massive impact.
Also has the Sheen available. Meanwhile, on the top lane, absolutely nothing is happening.
I've seen Pride's build, by the way. That's a healthy build.
Yeah,
I've ever seen one.
Health is a good stat, man.
Well, especially when you think about a lot of damage from Camille comes from that true damage, from the Precision Protocol. The health does mitigate that. Resistances aren't really going to change that damage output, especially since there is a fair bit of mixed from a Grasp Camille as well.
Now, coming into this game, we wanted to see Fnatic Rising kind of go back to basics. Take it a little bit easier, don't go too crazy in the draft. They've done that, and the early game thus far has been looking on point. While they haven't been putting a lot of explosive pressure outside of that initial skirmish, the level 1, they've been picking up the first Drake, they picked up a little bit of pressure in the mid lane with the roam from Bravado, and now they also picked up the Rift Herald, which, if I'm not mistaken, is probably going to elevate that gold lead, although they are giving up a couple of early plays. Pride does go for the taunt, but will only be rewarded with a fair amount of damage coming out from Intrepid Fox's bot lane.
Yeah, it's actually a very early swap coming out from Bravado, so they can secure the Herald before MaGi was even actually there. It does mean they can put a lot of pressure on this top lane, and it's going to be a late swap from Intrepid Fox to match. Yes, they get that one plate in the bot lane, but there's now no one defending here. MaGi's able to get a lot of damage in that tower, Kailing a great tower pusher, especially with the amount of AD available, and it's getting to a point where you could just throw the Herald down and potentially take it, and Gagai is only arriving now. So Fnatic, as you said, they're starting to pull ahead in this one. It's been pretty slow, it's not been too explosive after that initial invade, but the advantages are starting to rack up. And now they'll swap towards the bot lane just as Intrepid Fox arrive, because they're looking towards that dragon in a minute 15.
And with the Herald, that is a great position to be in for Fnatic Rising. And even without any action besides level 1, because you see 5 kills, you think at 10 minutes maybe this has been a game full of action. It has not been, but regardless, Fnatic now 1.3k gold ahead here at 10 minutes, able to constantly out-rotate. Right, needs to be careful though, gets taken by the hookshot. There is the tactical ultimatum, and we see that LeBron will be able to assist Bako, pick up the kill, and get his top laner ahead.
Which is a nice pick, and I have to praise it, but one unfortunate thing is we saw this a bit yesterday from Intrepid Fox. Look at the Dragon timer. It's coming up in 40 seconds, Pride bit nothing. He is going to be up in 10 seconds with that Stand United available, and we're now seeing the Hextech ultimatum down from Bako, and he's actually just reset, so it's a nice pick, but this is the issue I've had with Intrepid Fox. They're good at finding kills, but you have to ask, what are they getting from this kill? And here, it's just a bit of gold.
Which isn't enough if it doesn't actually translate into any meaningful item spikes. And now we see xMatty hit the Infinity Edge here, and that's going to be huge in the upcoming Dragon fight, because if you look at Intrepid Fox, there's 2 tiers there then. There's 2 Triforces that aren't yet finished. Fnatic Rising, if they pick up this Drake as well, they are making headway towards an early Soul, and generally, Soul is pretty good, especially if it's Infernal or an Ocean.
I rate Soul. I think it's it's all right. It's all right. I'd take it. You know,
Soul's good.
I'd rather have Soul than not have Soul. I'll definitely say that much. But yeah, I think it could be a big factor, especially in a game like this where both teams have a lot of scaling elements between them. I think a Soul advantage is big, and second Dragon is not a massive thing to lose. You're not too bothered. And with that play earlier, I have to say that, you know, a kill on a Bako isn't bad. You're also getting a bit of a CS lead. But it's just, you know, a kill is a kill. You want to kill on an objective. And that's why I felt like maybe the play, you wouldn't be able to find it another time, but it just wasn't able to translate. This I like, though. I like that they're leaning down towards... I like that Fnatic are leaning down towards the bot lane and applying more of that pressure, and now looking to utilize that Herald.
Now, Fnatic is really just playing a tactical game here. They're not taking finds when they don't need to, right? As you said, Pride taken down. It's unfortunate, but it doesn't actually influence the game in a larger scale, like the gold lead that is now being generated by this first tower block will possibly do. As we see that gold being put in the pockets of the bot lane.
See that burst, though, from MagiFelix, and
look at the
gold difference. We're seeing basically an organic, huge gold lead mid lane, just an CS advantage of about 900. That's just MagiFelix just doing his thing. But in the bot lane, obviously, a lot of pressure being put down there. We've had the 3 kills on a MaGi, and now all these plates. 1,000 gold lead just off the back of that, which is matched actually in the top lane.
I was about to say, there's a glimmer of hope here for Intrepid Fox.
There is.
And it's Bako.
Yeah, and that usually is someone they can lean on in the split push sense, and it is definitely, and this is why I like the Camille compared to the Gangplank is that.
Kyouma has the flash, the guy goes in, Dan is there as well. There's a bit of a fight here as Dan goes very, very deep, but LeBron will be the one that gets blown up in the end. Great Stand United there from Pride to keep his jungler alive.
Yeah, it's just very difficult to go for these aggressive plays when you know you're against a Shen, because he's just going to ult in. It's as simple as that, and it's going to mean when you try and dive the backline, they have that extra shield. As much as LeBron's been keeping up, he hasn't been strong enough to really threaten a one-shot on this backline, and they're just going to keep getting more plates in the mid lane. They're getting further and further ahead.
And this is something that I'm really impressed by from Fnatic. They play as if they're never afraid. They always... We've seen them up until the enemy towers for basically the entire game. The only exception was MagiFelix, you know, in the early game, a little bit of trouble with getting the prior, which is understandable against an Orianna. But besides that, the pressure that they've been able to put out is exquisite as Bako gets taken very low, and he will get blown up there by xMatty as he picks up yet another kill, and Fnatic is snowballing this game out of control.
And this is the big thing. They shut down the threat, the win condition for Intrepid Fox.
That was it.
Styling Camille, yeah. And it was beautifully played by MaGi. Because actually, Bako made the mistake of walking between the tower and the wall, and then he put a trap behind him. And Bako had nowhere to go, so he just has to walk through the trap. Instantly, the taunt follows. The damage is there from Maddie, and they end up taking him out. And now, I mean, we talk a little bit about how there's a bit of a trough for Caitlyn in the mid game. We talk about how, you know, two item spike is big for Ezreal, but yeah, not now. When you have Infinity Edge and a Storm Razor this early, I mean, look at the items on the side of Intrepid Fox in comparison.
I'd rather not, Dan.
I agree.
This is a very familiar feeling for me as a Benelux resident. And unfortunately, as we see Dan come down here, takes down Gagai, throws a bit of damage towards him as the Lockshot comes through. Dan is going to get the final slap, and the Beer finds yet another kill. And now the pressure is coming through here from Fnatic Rising. Kyouma might suffer himself as well, as the taunt isn't even necessary. Bravado picks up that one, and Fnatic Rising is just clinically dismantling Intrepid Fox here. The aggressive Emperor's Divide comes through, and in the end, it is just disaster all around.
This is starting to look a little bit rough right now. Fnatic have just put on the pressure. Clearly unhappy they lost that game yesterday, and they see an opportunity, they see a champion even slightly overextended, and they just look to punish them. And we'll get a shot in that replay. Honestly, Kyouma shouldn't have been this far up, but the execution's perfect. Everything hits. Even the ult coming out from Bravado, already ahead of time seeing where Gagai is going to be. And then here, there's flashes available. They know they don't need them. They just slowly take the play. 1 CC, 2 CC, 3 CC dead.
Just clean gameplay from Fnatic, and this is what we wanted to see from them coming into this game. They had a rough loss against Mouse, they had the great start against Games Origin, and they need to win these games against Intrepid Fox if they want to stay in the running, especially considering that Games Origin and Mouse are also playing tonight, which is going to be a banger of a match. Now, state of the game is not looking good for Intrepid Fox. What can they possibly do to come back here? I think, first of all, it's going to require that Fnatic stop playing proactively, or it can be picks like this as Bako goes forward. LeBron is there as well, but with Dan and Pride also coming in, there is nothing you can do as Bako gets taken down. LeBron has to run for the hills. Defensive ghosts are not something you ever want to see, but there's no other way out.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that is a really big hit. It now means that they're not really going to be in a position to contest this Herald push. I think they can just throw this down, get that top lane tower, then rotate down for that dragon. It's going to be the third, and...
What do you do, Dan?
It's rough. Honestly, it's rough. I think you're not going to get clearly outscaled. Obviously, Caitlyn, Azir are... And I mean, this composition for Fnatic Rising will beat you in team fights in most situations, unless you find backline access. But you do have the Camille. It's not a great win con, but it's there. And also, if you find a situation where Maddie and MagiFelix are out of position, that is where you can punish. But it's been difficult because they haven't been out of position. They've had the Shen ult, and now they've just taken all of your towers, basically.
This is such a textbook Caitlyn game as well, because xMatty has done so much as Dan has found Gagai. Yet again, the last time it was not a pretty sight for the Ezreal, and this time it won't be either, as Dan just picks up a solo kill, and this feels to me like Intrepid Fox, they're trying, they're getting greedy, they need to go for these waves, and then they get blown up.
I mean, yeah, they're trying to make the crossmark play by pushing bot, but they overstay.
No, no, Dan.
There's a lot of damage.
Yeah.
There's a lot of damage.
Not okay, as the Drake gets picked up and Fnatic Rising.
One actually could. No.
No.
Sides against it.
No.
There's a tanky there.
Already at Salt Point at 17.5 minutes into the game. LeBron 2 levels behind Dan. And Fnatic Rising, it was an explosive start. Intrepid Fox was able to slow down the pace a little bit, but then spikes were hit, and the objectives fell. And now the game looks firmly out of control for Intrepid Fox.
And this is more the Fnatic we saw in the NLC. This is the more controlled style where they play very structured, very by the book. They sort of have easy tools to work with. And it's very effective. They're very good at doing that. It feels like they don't really put much of a foot wrong. Obviously, there's occasional moments like that early level 1 play could have backfired, but for the most part, they have a game plan, they stick to it, and it feels suffocating. I think that's the thing to highlight is Intrepid Fox have had a rough go of it so far, but I don't think this is because they're necessarily a weak team. It's more because Fnatic is a very overwhelmingly strong team.
And I agree with you that it's not necessarily the individual skill level, because we do see, like yesterday, like the other games, that there's plenty of moments where Intrepid Fox has like nice plays, goes for an attempt to force something as LeBron gets found out there, needs to try and get away, then will hit the stun on Gagai. A lot more damage coming through, but won't be enough regardless of the smashing bear. As I was saying, Intrepid Fox, it just feels like Fnatic, in terms of rotations, is just miles ahead of them, and then it's so hard to try and find on even footing.
Yeah, like, I don't think anyone's necessarily getting stomped. I mean, I do feel like MagiFelix got a pretty sizable lead over Punisher in that matchup, but other than that, I don't think there's any area where I've gone, oh wow, that player is just
It's a team play.
It's not like, yeah, it's not like Mouse where you see leader just destroy someone. It's more just Fnatic know where they need to do, how to really put the pressure onto Intrepid Fox, and Intrepid Fox have just been struggling. And realistically, at this point, they're waiting for an opportunity where someone is out of position. I think they could be looking for MagiFelix here.
And there's a very deep teleport coming in there from Punisher. He's going to try and make a go at MagiFelix, who is here on his own. Stand United is available, will be used. Shockwave isn't enough damage, but in the end, it will be the shutdown, and that's a lot of gold into the pockets of LeBron. Now they're going to try and take down Pride, and there is not really a way for Fnatic Rising to take his team fight. So instead, they say, thank you very much, we're going to go for the base.
Yeah, so they get in the inhibitor tower, not too big of a concern on C for Intrepid Fox. Realistically, getting the kill is much more important. You answer back, you get 2 in the pocket. It's showing some life for your team. And ultimately, Fnatic actually trying to look for an answer, but they won't find it. It's... Oh, they actually stopped the recall.
That is...
Good. Oh, that is a lot of damage.
That hurts. It's not good. It's not good, Dan.
That is... I mean, it's a lot of attack damage on the Caitlyn with this build. I'm not surprised. It just...
It's still... Knowing it and seeing it are two very different things. As Fnatic Rising start up the Baron here, they are looking so controlled. This is the Fnatic Rising I think you all expected to see coming into the NLC.
We need Punisher. We've seen Orianna steals before. It has to be it.
And it's all or nothing here. He tries to go for it, but doesn't find it in the end. Doesn't want to invest the Shockwave either, as I'm sure Kyouma is going to get picked up here. Will be forced to flash. Let's make it out. And now the gold lead at 21 minutes. Basically insurmountable. And Intrepid Fox, it wasn't for a lack of trying.
Yeah, I think there's definitely moments they tried. I think there's definitely opportunities where they look to punish. Like they did that in the top lane. Unfortunately, LeBron goes down, and it's enough for Fnatic Rising to get the Baron. But as much as it feels like it, the game is not quite over. There's still the soul to be contested in a minute 20. That is the final hope. If Intrepid Fox are going to get back in, they need to fight that. They need to find a pick. Unfortunately, sums are available across the board for Fnatic, so it's going to be
fine.
hard.
You just give over the Infernal Soul, and then you go for Elder. Yeah. You just got to get through that 6-minute period.
It's 21 minutes 40. It feels so much later.
Right? And it's Fnatic's macro.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Intrepid Fox, coming into this game, what we wanted to see from them was play through that heavy topside. Punisher hasn't had a great game, right? He's been one of the shining lights, currently able to keep up relatively well. Now they go really deep on Bravado. Hextech automates himself through. He gets taken low. But the shielding is absurd! And he will stay alive for a really long time. Bravado still not down. And there comes the Mystic Shot to find him in the end. But here comes MagiFelix. And it is an absolute demolishment of Intrepid Fox from a team fight that they started. It looked good in the beginning, but it wasn't enough.
Honestly, I gotta respect the play from Intrepid Fox. You have to try. You have to try, you have to look for it, but ultimately it just wasn't enough. The shielding that came in, not just from the Lux, but from the Shen as well, was honestly obscene, and they just weren't able to take out Bravado quick enough, and the answer came back through. Dan with a huge engage, and then MagiFelix with a cleanup. Unfortunately, it just wasn't enough.
If there wasn't enough of evidence that Fnatic Rising just wants to play by the book, look at what they're doing here. They're not going for a greedy finish. They're just going for every single lane for the inhibitors, and that's right, dueling there with LeBron. That Conqueror is way too strong. Even back at this point, MagiFelix standing very far forward. Bako is going to be able to find the hookshot there. Doesn't have Hextech automated. MagiFelix need to try to get over the wall, but that's another shutdown going to LeBron. But it is Infernal Soul.
Not sure about that one.
No, not necessary.
I like the punish from Intrepid Fox. I like the fact that...
Yeah?
Oh, well, we'll get to see the replay first. So they go for the engage, you see Bravado warding alone, and it's this shield there that comes in that is just a bit crazy. And it allows Pride to get there, and it means that a lot is invested to take down. But this huge combo coming in from MagiFelix, and Dan just decimates them. At that point, you know the fight is over. You know you have the dragon, you can start to pick up objectives. But Fnatic Rising was sloppy there, you know? They let Pride Pride overstepped and got punished, but then MagiFelix joined up and they both end up going down. So despite the rest of the game being clean, that was messy. And it shows that Intrepid Fox, despite everything, despite the fact, you know, we feel like the gold lead and the soul is hard to surmount, they're still trying. And Bako still trying to make a presence in this side lane.
And what I'm very happy to see, and this is something that I think really characterizes Intrepid Fox as well. They're not afraid to keep going for plays. Even here, they go for a two-man jungle invade. MagiFelix still stuck in the Hexagon Ultimatum. But that's just too much gold.
Yeah.
It's just not possible. But they keep going for it.
I like that. I mean, I think that's the big thing is that when the game is in a position like this, your chance of winning is slim.
Just go.
So you try the plays and see if they work. But now Fnatic looking to clean up here.
Right, comes in with the Stand United, and it looks like Fnatic Rising are making their way towards the pretty straightforward win. Intrepid Fox, they fought valiantly. They tried their very best, and they had a couple of good moments, but in the end, it is unfortunately not enough to take down Fnatic Rising. Intrepid Fox unfortunately going 0-3, and Fnatic Rising pick up a very important win to stay in the running for the top of that group, as we see the Nexus slowly fall. A couple of, you know, gotta get KDA up. Yeah, pick up a kill here or there, and it's Fnatic Rising to take a convincing win over Intrepid Fox.
Yeah, obviously there was that one little oopsie moment or a couple, but for the most part, very strong performance. They knew exactly what they needed to do. They played a very straightforward team comp as they do in the NLC, and they delivered. So hyped to see that from Fnatic Rising, bouncing back from that defeat yesterday for Intrepid Fox. It's a rough start. Being 0-3 in the group is never where you want to be. And ultimately, we're seeing these little moments where I'm like, this is why this team is here. This is why they got through play-ins. But unfortunately, it's not enough, or it's not at the right time. And I think as well, it's a hard group, in all honesty. When we look at the fact it's Mouse, Fnatic Rising, and Gamers Origin, it's difficult.
It's really difficult. And I want to reiterate that as well. And even up until the end of the game, as you were saying, as Intrepid Fox, never gave up, kept looking for the high-risk, high-reward plays, because there's nothing else you can do at that point in the game. And unfortunately for them, it wasn't enough. Now, we're going to go, I think, to a short break, and then we are going to be back with an absolute banger of a game. It's going to be Gamers Origin taking on Mouse Esports. Don't go anywhere.
Crap, I got a squad on my right.
Running in for backup.
Yo, Ron, he's right there in front of you.
Sorry guys, it happened again.
Damn, that's the 10th one today.
All right, I'm back.
Someone cover me.
You got him, you got him. Yo, that's sweet.
Yeah, it is. We about to win this.
I can get used to this.
HyperX Alloy, built strong because it has to be.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the EU Masters, where we pit the very best ERL teams against one another while showcasing up-and-coming European talent. 12 regions will compete to decide who will reign supreme over Europe, so be the first to scout and the first to cheer. Let's get right into it. EU Masters begins with the play-in group stage, where all regions will have at least one team represented, with a total of 16 teams divided into 4 groups. Here, each team will play against other teams in their group twice, with the top 2 seeds moving on to the play-in knockout stage. The winners here will move on to the group stage, where 12 teams have already pre-qualified. This group stage is where the teams will compete in a double round robin, with the top 2 teams advancing to the knockout stage. From September 15th to 16th, like before, top seeds will play against the second-seeded teams from other groups in a best-of-3, with winners moving on to the semi-finals. Here, the final 4 teams will play a best-of-3 and fight for their spot in the finals, where it'll be a best-of-5 to determine the next EU Masters champion. Each season, fresh talent explodes onto the Rift. The likes of Nemesis, Kazi, Selfmade, and Humanoid all rose up through the EU Masters. But who will be this year's champion? Who will be the next breakout player to make it into the LEC? Join the ride, tag along, and witness history in the making. Bye for now.
Welcome back, everyone, to day 3 of the European Masters. We just saw Fnatic Rising take a convincing win against Intrepid Fox.
Yep, absolutely. And I think the big points to take away is this is the Fnatic we saw in the NLC. More straightforward, more easy to execute, with game plans like go for the level 1 invade. And it was just really nice to see the execution between, particularly, I love watching Dan and Bravado together. Their synergy is always really good. They got to lay in the CC, and it came off to a great effect.
And this game started out very aggressive, very bloodthirsty, immediate pressure coming out with that level 1 invade. But then after that, it kind of slowed down, but Fnatic still was the team that consistently set the pace in that game.
Yeah, they were just chasing down these outlying members from Intrepid Fox, chasing down the objectives that are available to them. And it was just, it felt really hard for Intrepid Fox to find a way back in. I do want to highlight that it felt like they gave more agency to xMatty. He's kind of been on Carthus duty quite a bit, and I like that they were putting trust in him on the Caitlyn pick, and he really did show off. And even when Intrepid Fox thought they found a way in, they didn't quite get it.
This is the highlight type of plays for me, though, from Intrepid Fox. Them looking for plays, trying to force, trying to get that Hail Mary kill, but then the shielding comes in. It's the luck shielding combined with Pride using a Stanch United, and there's just not really anything you can do.
I think it was hard to come back into that game, ultimately, and I think Fnatic, you know, they are the sort of team to play that in a way that chokes you out of the game. So, huge praise to them. They finished their first week at 2-1, and unfortunately, Intrepid Fox, it is that 0-3, but there's still those moments, so we'll see if they can sort of bounce back in that week too. The
problem for Intrepid Fox, of course, is that they are in a group with Fnatic Rising, but 2 other teams, and those 2 teams are Mouse Esports and Gamers Origin. There's also going to be the next game that we are gonna get into. And Dan, I know you have a very strong opinion about Mouse Esports.
Yeah, I'm just going to flat out say it. I think Mouse are the team to beat at the moment. I think they are looking like the strong... No, they are looking as the strongest team just in EU Masters right now.
They're going to win.
Yeah, if nothing changes, they're winning. I am flat out saying this. We haven't seen too much, but their playoffs run, they just decimated the other 2 teams from the Prime League who were here. It was clean sweeps. And I think based on their play against Fnatic Rising, I think based on their play in their fast win against Intrepid Fox, unless Gamers Origin can shake something up, I'm going to finish this week and just say, just put Mouse down as the winners at the top already.
They've been looking so dominant as well, and it's the way that they find their wins, because Mouse just look overpowering in how they play the game.
Well, I think as well as that, you know, there was a lot of very scrappy play in the Prime League. I think we saw that in their series up against Unicorns of Love in their playoffs. But it feels like they've sort of not just have that scrappy side where they still look to find those skirmishes and outskill you, but also their game sense has been pretty effective. We saw that against Fnatic because it felt like it wasn't just the fact they outperform you individually. They also knew where to be on the map. They knew how to punish. They knew where they wanted to rotate to. And it felt pretty overwhelming.
And the teamfight execution, just everything seems like it's up to par. Whereas for Gamers Origin, they're still an incredibly strong team, but we've seen that they have some positioning errors here and there, and you can't afford that against a team like Mouse.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a major weakness, but it's one that will become one against Mouse. But when I look towards Gamers Origin, I'm looking towards the likes of Bluezor in the jungle. I'm looking at him to step up. We saw him get a Pinnacle yesterday, so that was huge. And the bot lane as well. I think Hustling Beast, it was really refreshing to see his aggression because it was completely untapered. And actually, I think my hype matchup is the bot lane because I think Smiley and Hustling Beast against Promisecue and Jessler, both these 2 duos really powerful. And I think on top of that, both the supports, they want to be playmakers. I think they absolutely want to be the driving forces for the team, and I'm excited to see how it pans out.
It's going to be a bloodbath of a game, if we're not mistaken. We're going to throw to a short break, and then we will be back with Mouse Esports versus Gamers Origin.